Good day to you, gentle person on the internet, and thank you for joining me as we have a look at Archesspelago. As you can see, this is a combination of chess and archipelago, which is a kind of island chain, I believe. So yeah, fairly clever name. I have the settings panel open so you can see the quality of life controls, the toggle full screen, and the music volume. I've turned the music down because I don't know if it's still coming through. I'm assuming it's still coming through to the recording. As you can hear, it's a little bit ongoing and relentless, but still pretty good music. I like it. It's just a bit high energy for this. So yeah, the UI theming looks good. All of that kind of stuff looks very, very good. Sadly, there is no tutorial. Nothing to teach you how to play, particularly other than these controls over here. I mean, that's fine. A good tutorial is important to get people into your game. So I do feel the lack of it, and this is quite a complex game with some interesting questions about how it works. But yeah, I think I think the lack of tutorial is probably because it was a game jam game. The 7 days roguelike game jam of 2026, which is currently in its voting state. I think it finished kind of the middle of March. But yeah, so it's in its voting stage. Long 25 days of voting still left, and I mean it's already been like 5 or so. So it's like a full month of voting. So it's a long one with a healthy number of entries. So I mean it was clearly a good jam, an interesting one, and has led to some interesting games. What this game actually is it's a roguelike progression where you place it round after round after round, and if you die, you come back to the beginning. It has a roguelike kind of incremental element where you earn souls and you have certain unlocks that you can purchase with those souls. But I have noticed, I'm not sure if it's a bug or intentional, but when you come back to the beginning, you have the souls that you have made in that round, and then when you start the next round, your souls are emptied out, they go back to 0. Now that is technically on the kind of roguelike lines that there's not meant to be a meta progression. That is the roguelite side of things more than the roguelike. Having said that, the fact that there are unlocks is then not roguelike. That is more roguelite, so it's kind of halfway in between the two, as it were. That's why I'm wondering if it's a bug or something like that. There's also the ability to change the game themes, but the only one I really like is this mono theme. There's a couple of more themes and things under the unlocks. But yeah, this one is quite comfortable. I like this grey background and things like that. Otherwise, the art of the game is very, very pleasant. And we've already done a fair bit of the critiques and we haven't even started, so let's jump in and actually play. And I'm going to show you how the game flows and the gameplay elements that I don't really like about it. It's still a very, very good game, very immersing, but yeah, I'm trying to have actually told you what the game idea is. So you arrive with a couple of units at an island, so a little sort of small uneven shape of square chessboard. Your units are chess pieces and they can only move in chess pieces like movements, but in all directions. So it's not just to the north. It's kind of, you know, the pawn can take at any one of these 4 squares, for example. And yeah, you have to kind of take all of the pieces on the island that you arrive, the enemy pieces, and then you win that round, and then you move on to the next island, normally getting one of the chess pieces, and continue and keep playing to see how far you can get. So let me stop talking about it. Let's jump in and play. We hit the start button. Day 1, we're approaching a hostile island. So as you can see here, there are 2 enemy chess pieces in this. This is the shape of the island. There is another square blocked out there. I don't know what that's for. I've tried moving my pieces over there. That doesn't seem to do anything. I think that might have been a gameplay mechanism that was abandoned or something for the game jam. I don't know. Maybe it's something to do with you get these tarot cards that you can then charge your pieces up with sometimes. So yeah, for all I know, that's got something to do with one of those. I don't know. Anyway, let us play the game. As you can see, this guy is a bishop. He has the ability to attack anywhere along the board along his diagonals. It has started us rather conveniently with a piece that is in his attack range, so we can click on him We can click where we want him to move, and we can take an enemy piece. Then our other piece, we can then move forward to try and get him into the level of play and off the little floating island. That is the end of our turn. So he has moved. He can't take us because that is a pawn. He can only take us there and there, and we are in neither of those positions. If he moves down or up to take us in the next move, we'll be able to take him. But we'll talk about the computer's intelligence in a minute there, because I think it is actually a little bit too high. We can end our turn, and we can move this lad up, end our turn again. He's moved there, so let us move there and let him move. What we can do is move up here. He will take us, but then we will be able to take him, so we are baiting him with our unit here. So let's move him up there. He may decide not to take us and may move upwards, but the computer seems to be fairly reliably aggressive in that it will take a piece when presented with the opportunity. Well, let's let him do it. So he took that piece, we take him. We have won the round, we get our piece back, and we get to choose one of their pieces, which are both identical, so they don't have any cards or anything on them. So let's take that piece. Now we have 2 pawns and a bishop, and we embark to go to our next island. This is a friendly island, and he will actually turn one of our pawns into a knight, and knights are quite powerful, so let's say yes to that. Maybe we'll get that one turned into a knight. I like the fact it's wearing a little horse head. Right, so what are we looking at here? There's 2 enemy bishops, and there is 1 enemy pawn. Some of them have swords. I don't know why they have swords. I don't know if that means something or if that's just a cosmetic difference. They do have more card slots, so if we had tarot cards and we owned one of them, we could give them more tarot elements. Yeah, I don't know. But here we have an interesting challenge, because there is a bishop up there, and he can't get here because the bishops can't change from square of one color to the square of the other color, because they can only move diagonally, which means he can only move there, but he can't move to that square, and this bishop can't get back there. So we're actually only fighting 2 units here. The pawn can of course move between the 2, but the pawn is here, so we will no doubt get rid of the pawn. Alright, so let's... Now, another interesting challenge here is that we cannot fight this bishop with this bishop, because this bishop is on the white squares and this bishop is on the grey squares, and this bishop can't get to fight that bishop because he can't get through this little narrow channel here. So it's this game does lead you to positions where you cannot win, and the enemy cannot win at all, no matter what either of you do. So for example, if we managed to kill these 2, but they also managed to kill these 2, then the game would be stuck because the 2 units can't get to each other. Or if they managed to kill these 2, but I managed to kill that one, again we'd be stuck because this bishop and that bishop can never fight, and this bishop can't get to that one to fight. So it is possible to get to positions where you just the game is a draw, but the computer doesn't recognize that, doesn't realize that it is a draw. Yeah, and you just get stuck until you click the give up button, which takes you back to the menu. So you lose on a draw in essence, which always seems a little unfair. Anyway, let's bring our lads forward a bit. Hopefully we can get rid of some characters here. Alright, well what we can do is we can take this piece now because he has stepped into our path. I can't move my knight because I need him to go and fight that guy. move this piece because it will move him into death from the knight. And I want this piece as well to go and fight that guy. So I need to move very, very carefully here. And trap this bishop in a place where we can take him. Alright, so fortunately there is a sort of intelligence in the way the computer moves, in which if it is possible for him to move, he will move. But this will not force him into moving into a place where he is going to be taken. And I did discover that at a sort of an earlier run where I had trapped a couple of pieces to the point where if they moved they would get taken, and they just didn't move. The computer just ended a turn without making any moves, so it didn't count them as valid moves to move into a position. So you can't kind of force the computer into a move where he gets taken. You kind of have to allow the computer to do something stupid, kind of wedge him into a corner where you can then move a piece and take him. So I'm going to move up there because now he can't move down there. The only place he can move is there into that corner, and we should be able to get him with the knight then, with some careful maneuvering. And if he does move there, I can trap him there. Maybe. Anyway, we shall see. Let's get the knight moving up. Let's see what we can come up with. Let's get this guy out the way. Are you going to move backwards? Yes, you are. Alright. Let's move you there. So he is now trapped in there. Let's move you up here. We can wedge this guy in the corner. Oh no, he can move over there. That's annoying. Alright, I didn't think of that. I was stupid there. Alright, well, let's move you over there. That will be enough moves for this thing. Let's move you over there. Let's move you up one. Hopefully you can then, if you make a mistake and move up there, then we've got you. Okay, now you're just moving there. Can I force you into moving somewhere interesting? Let's move in there. No? Alright, we're gonna have to just keep moving around here just to see if this guy eventually moves somewhere interesting. This is quite a challenge, this board and these pieces. Now, he is being difficult. Let's move you out the way. Let's move you Now the temptation was be to leave this chess piece there and use him as bait for the pawn to then take him. But that just leaves me with just a pawn to get that guy out, and that would be very, very difficult indeed. I'm going to have the same challenge up here that I'm having up there that I'm having down here. Unfortunately. Let's leave you there. Let's move you down here. Maybe we can trap this guy in a corner. You see, he's smart enough to only jump into the one spot. Very difficult. Is he going to just go backwards and forwards on those two spots? I think he might do. See, this is the problem here, is that there are... Yeah, the computer can be bright enough to not do things. Alright, so now he can't move. No, he can still move over there. That's annoying. Let's see what he chooses to do. Oh, okay, he sacrificed himself. Good. No, alright. Now this bishop we might as well leave down there because we can't do anything. Alright, so we managed that because the... Can I even get my dude up there? Yeah. Alright. No, from... I should be able to use my pawn to bait him. Alright. No, is he not falling for it? Okay. So now those two blocks are monitored. Okay. Hopefully he'll be baited here. Yeah. Alright, that was quite hard. Yeah, we need a oh no, he switched to the grey squares. I was hoping he was going to stay as a white square bishop. Anyway, that is enough gameplay. I think you've seen the gameplay mechanics. When we have these friendly islands, see, these enemy pieces will always move if they're able, but able is a variable thing, because they won't move into a position where they're going to be taken. That apparently doesn't count as able, so they won't always move into lethal positions. They will just always move if there is an empty block somewhere, but they will try and choose the best block for their future planning. So yeah, so I think that's enough gameplay. I think there's enough discussion about that. We've already had a fair amount of critiques about it. The way the intelligence is a little too smart, I think, is a fairly fundamental critique that we haven't really addressed properly. It's the game is hard to play from the beginning, and you can very easily get into positions where you're stuck looping, and the game doesn't recognize kind of draw positions. So I said, like, if you have a bishop on a white square and the enemy has a bishop on a black square and all the other pieces have died, you can just loop forever. You have to then give up, which means that you lose, which I don't think is fair from a draw. There's ability even with multiple pieces where you can get stuck in a loop, and you're kind of having to rely on the computer to do something stupid, or possibly there is a clever way to trap it that I just don't see, because I'm not that good at kind of chess maneuvering. But I'm not feeling it. I think it is to the point where the meta game flow is not forgiving enough to make allowances for the player to progress, and that is an interesting question about game design. That is kind of one of the things that I want to look for while I review these games, and that is, how do you balance the game challenge versus the player's fun? And that's particularly difficult to do because obviously there's different kinds of players. Some of them have fun with a very, very hard game where they have to play again and again and again and again to get somewhere, like the keep wanting to call it the Elder Scrolls games, but the Bloodborne games is what I'm talking about here. Is where you are fighting furiously against a boss who will just kills you over and over and over until you learn the boss's routines by heart, and your reactions are perfect and your responses and things like that, and that seems to be fun for a substantial portion of the players, but that would drive me crazy. I would just stop playing it, despite the fact that the lore is absolutely beautiful of that set of games, and the graphics are exquisite, and the setting and everything is just, there's interesting puzzles and the mines and things that's going on, and I think that's fantastic. But the gameplay is just far too frustrating, and you get trapped and seeing the same scenes and the same boss and the same fights over and over again for like an hour, multiple hours. Just that does not appeal to me, but it does appeal to a subset of players. I like games that are quite really easy, where it has a good storyline and it's not hard for me to follow the storyline. But that's very boring for a number of players because they don't really care about the storyline, and they they want a challenge. They want like a physical challenge, and I think it's very important to choose as a game designer what kind of player base you're going for. And it's a spectrum. It's not a binary thing. It's not like game is hard or game is easy. Obviously, there's layers of difficulty, and accordingly, layers of players who will find it too easy or too hard or just right and just enjoyable enough. And then you have to pack in the other things like the lore and the graphics and all that kind of stuff to widen that a bit, because players will play a game that's a bit hard if it looks good, or a game that's a bit easy if it has an interesting story, and so on. You have to add as many properties as possible to please enough players to make it worth the effort of playing your game. And I'm carefully steering away from the idea of profit and profiteering here. I don't think it is healthy to make a game to make money, because then it is not a game, it is a money-making product. Money-making products are not good games, and I think that's one of the big things that goes wrong with the big AAA studios, is they are making a profitable product first and a game second, because they are answering to shareholders and not to the players. And I mean that's a meta problem with large chunks of our modern existence, is that too many people are operating purely for profit, which is not the same as operating purely for the well-being of the customer, because there's this kind of myth that if you make something that's good for the customer, then there will be a lot of profit behind it, and that is just not true, as the modern world has shown us. We can make terrible products that people will then buy because of advertising and myths and political alignments and blah blah blah, whatever mechanism you've chosen to make it appeal to the customers, but it is not in their best interests. Or you can form a monopoly and just give them trash that they have to buy because they need it, and then you can charge too much and make the quality too low because there's no competition, there's no alternatives, and there's no like legal strictures to force you into producing a good product and reducing the profit in the customer's best interests. And that's where that kind of model falls down, is that if without constraints you quickly find positions where you can make more money by damaging the customer, because there is either the customer doesn't know, or there is no option for them and they have to make use of it, or have nothing, and so on. And I think that happens a lot in the game industry, as you get to the point where you have a AAA game with a flashy intro and flashy advertising and a loyal community, and then the game turns out trash because they've had profit-based crunch time periods where they've tried to make as much game as possible for as little cost, where the cost is developer salaries and QA salaries and all those kinds of things as possible, and so you end up with a crappy game. But because of all of the meta baggage around the game, the sort of the loyal community for that brand, and the big wow that you've managed to put, and people are getting wise to this, and obviously the AAA studios are now notorious for this kind of behavior, but it still does work as new people into the game market. I've got on a long diatribe here, and I'm sorry, but it is an important thing to get through. Is what even was my original point? Yes, the balance of gameplay, and the balance of how to judge where a game is good, because it pleases as many people as the game objective as possible allows it to please. So if you're trying to make a difficult game, you're going to have less people that you're going to make happy with that game, because it is difficult, and less people want a difficult experience. They might want an entertaining experience, and they're not that into the difficulty. And that I think that is more players than those who want the difficulty. So if you are making a difficult game, you're in a smaller niche already, and as a game maker, you have to kind of make the decision. And I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying understand the constraints around your dev experience, so that you can dev accordingly. You don't need to do things because of the challenges or because of the obstacles. You just need to know that the obstacles are there and understand that that is a constraint that you are working with there. And that was a very long way around to say that. Hopefully it was interesting. And I'm not even going to critique this anymore. I think this is an amazing game. I think you should come and play it. I think you should come and give the devs some love in the comments. You can give me some love by commenting on this video and dropping a like or dislike. If you like or dislike the video, not the game, go tell the dev about the game. I'm not taking credit for that, but if you like or dislike the video, click that like or dislike button and then drop me a comment telling me why, so I get better at making videos. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and that silly notification bell if you want to be notified about new indie games. I try and do one a day, so a little ding of notification from YouTube will tell you that there is a new indie game that you should probably at least give some consideration for, because it should be a fun experience. And that's kind of all I want to give you guys here. So that's it from me in terms of the gameplay, and I'm not going to give it any more critiques. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.